there are a couple of other technologies on the planet that manage to bring water in coherent state, and we tested most of them, and they do actually change the state of water. But the water stays in coherent state anywhere between a couple of minutes and day and a half. The best one stays day and a half. Then the water molecules break and the water goes back to chaos. And we now tested for 6 consecutive years, almost 7 consecutive years now. After just one treatment, water never went back to chaos.
Hello, and welcome to the Energy Flow podcast. I'm Kelly Kennedy, and I am here to discuss all things energy, fascia, lymphatics, oxygen, and water. Over my 26 years of being on this journey and 19 years in clinical practice, dealing with chronically ill, chronically pained, to the optimizing of health and to everything in between, we have learned throughout these years how to efficiently and effectively teach people how the body works, get them engaged in that system, help them understand how the universe works and how those two connect. And that's what this Energy Flow podcast is about. Whether you are new to us or you've been a longtime listener of over 4 years now, we are so happy and honored to share our heart's honest truth about what we know, what has worked for us, what's worked in the clinical practice, and what might be the key to your next step in your journey. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for sharing this with all that it will resonate with. We look forward to each and every moment of our genuine connection. Thank you for listening. Welcome back to Energy Flow with Kelly Kennedy, and I am so honored and privileged to have Mario join us today. So I'm just going to set the attention that this deep knowledge of this deep body of knowledge of the human body and how it really works and how it connects to the universe around us and how we can be in alignment and how we can regenerate and how we can be ahead of the curve is a deep subject that we have spent well over 140 episodes now on this Energy Flow podcast. And I trust that today with Mario and myself, with our heart-centered awareness of each other's work, can really help all of those listening. And we invite you to wipe out whatever you've thought you've known in the past, to bring yourself an opportunity to discover something new, as we dive into our first conversation together, but yet knowing how aligned we are with the information that we've gathered to this point in our life, to share our stories because we've gotten through our stories, to share our story with you, to allow it to enlighten and engage you in your own healing because you are the medicine. And to help you remember that today as we talk, as we are reminded by all the tools and the technologies and all the therapies that we've employed, it's all come back to the center of us as the medicine. And I'm so grateful for people like Mario specifically, to create technology that has helped make quantum leaps in wellness that makes it simple and easy. As we dive into the information and the science behind math, science and God being all one today, I trust that those still with us after that opening are the ones that are meant to be here, that are ready for this next level of information and the next level of healing as they quantum leap into their next time loop of who they really are, so they can shine through their own song of their heart. And so it is.
Amen. I love this whole intent thing. It really kind of focuses everything to one point, and it allows for what needs to come fully in a proper way. So I love this. Thank you for this.
Oh, my pleasure. And thank you for being part of the ride, even though we met 4 minutes ago before we started. Because it really is about what you just said, putting our attention and our focus, because what I've learned from Emoto's work, from Rasmus, from all of this energy flow of which I've been studying for these years, is that our minds can focus the attention and the energy flows wherever our attention goes. And that's how we become creative beings that are masterful. While we are not masters of anything, we really know nothing. We can be masterful in putting our attention to allow the energy to flow where we want it to flow and never to where we don't want it to flow. So I really invite people to realize and remember that we are 99% molecularly by weight of water. That when I was on that water retreat with Isabel and Veda that we just mentioned, my dear friends, we were all called to go to Bali to be with the water because of how deep that water has been ceremoniously honored through the ages of time by those beautiful people in Bali. And at one point, Isabel asked a question on the retreat: what is the body of water that's closest to you that makes the most amount of impact? And when it got around to the circle, Veda had the best freaking answer, which was my own body of water, and the body of water of my son, or the body of water of my husband. Makes me emotional just think about it. But we are bodies of water, and we forget this. And the real water temple that left me when I left Bali, my aha moment was the temple that we really need to nourish is this temple, which is our own human body, because that is what the gift we've been given, the temple we've been given to honor, to truly live heaven on earth. And so Mario has created this Analemon, for those of you who don't know about Analemon, and it's this wonderful tool that's facilitated my travel. So I don't have to be so, I can have a dinner conversation with my friends and colleagues and also know that everything that I'm ingesting is really good, high quality, because I didn't have to be the witch that did it at the table. So let's dive into that conversation a little bit. I mean, my community knows this stuff well. If this is their first podcast with me, well, they're like me. They want to go deep fast.
Totally cool. I love this. I would just like to mention one thing when you mentioned we are 99% water. But I would also like to invite people to understand that water, we are a liquid crystal.
Mm.
And crystals, radios back in the day were crystal based, and you can actually tune in to particular frequency. And when we are primed to receive the optimum information of our environment, then we can not only function in the best possible way, we can influence our environment in much more powerful way. So we become the change, so to speak,
Yeah.
vibrationally. So anyhow, just wanted to mention that because it's not
That's
just
huge.
water. Yeah.
No, that's huge. And I so appreciate that take on it, because what often, a lot of people, I'm going to just jump to it. A lot of people have breast implants that are full of silicone. And we know from bioregulatory medicine that can be an interference field. But I also know we're magicians and witches. And why can't we turn those silicone into crystalline structures because we're crystal? And why can't we just make it quartz crystal?
Brilliant idea. I love it. The key element here is, I agree with you 100%. What we do, we are actually the highest intelligence of God on the planet. And therefore, we can do basically anything and everything. But just like you mentioned, it's all about where we put our attention. That's why I love the attention bit in the beginning. I can now, I'm going to invite all the people that listen to this is now pay the attention on the fabric touching your left shoulder. And you can actually feel it there. Up until a moment ago, it was there all the time, but you didn't perceive it. And there are 99% of wonders that you never paid your attention to because you didn't know it existed. This is the miracle of human existence, I would say. We as a civilization, I believe we are in kindergartens. And we haven't even barely began to evolve. And there are people thinking, oh, we are so evolved. We're not. We're really not. So there are so many things to be discovered. But at the same time, this is all part of who we are. So it's not even a thing of achieving. It's a thing of remembering. It's a thing of paying attention to something. Then we bring it to life. And now the time has come for people to start paying attention to who we really are.
I'm so excited we've just begun this conversation because I completely am in alignment with what you're saying, that we are divine beings having a physical experience and that we're just really figuring this out. And that, particularly in America, we have a very not so old culture that we act like it's very old, and it's kind of acting like the bratty teenager that's, like, I know it all. And travel, if you think you know it all from America, is what I would say is travel. Because there's so much more to this wonderful world of which we live and this life of which we have. So much more to it than the commercial goods, the things we accomplish in our life. It's about the relationships and the people you have and the joy of nature of which we are and that we get to expose ourselves with. It's not about being in our houses and being in front of the computers. Well, I'm really glad that you're all here and listening, don't get me wrong. And we're really happy to have this technology that allows us to communicate, worldwide. Because Mario, where are you at right now?
I'm in Croatia, in
Yeah,
Europe.
exactly. So that's what's the beauty of that, right? It connects us all because we are all connected, is what I would like to say. But this journey of which you've put yourself on, I have no idea what your background is. I really have no idea. I'm so curious in this very moment. Like, how did you get here? Where did you come from? Obviously not this planet this time around, but we've dived in deep. I want to back up a little bit and just give them some context and some framework and talk about the analemma a little bit for those
Yeah,
that
of
don't know
course.
what it is. So let's start with, what is this analemma that Kelly's holding? Let's talk about this. What is this
Okay,
magic wand?
so just to explain to people, this is a 15 years in the making, the whole project. It's 50 plus scientists over 3 continents. So, and there is extraordinary science behind this. We realized in our research that water currently exists in what we call chaotic state. So it's still H2O, but H2O molecules, they move randomly, they crash into each other constantly. But since all of this is happening on an atomic level, nobody's really aware of that. This chaos has a profound effect on our health and wellness, even though we're completely unaware. Water can exist in this totally different state. Water can exist in a liquid crystalline state. When you bring water into that state, true power of water is being unleashed. And that's how nature intended water to be. When we tested this water on people, on humans, on people, on animals, and on plants, and actually on the environment, and results were remarkable. We're going to jump in every single detail of those. I believe that water is the most fundamental level of our existence. When you change that, your entire biology follows. And we proved short-term results, mid-time results, and long-term results of drinking this water and actually bathing in it, which we are also going to touch. We did a lot of plant research, which is extraordinary as well, animal research, and environment. So every living thing, when it's touched by this water, changes in a profound way.
Well, what's fascinating to me about your plant and animal experiments and human experiments is, much like Emoto's work, and I want to talk about what this means, this fourth phase of water, this crystalline water structure that you're talking about too, just to back it up a little bit in a second. But what's fascinating to me is that the conscious mind is involved in one of those and not involved in the others. And I'm so curious as to what that led you to understand in your research, because I've done a lot of my own personal, not the same level of research you're doing, but on plants and animals and my son, and as well as all the clients, but just like this plant versus this plant, like one-on-one kind of variable stuff. And it's really fascinating how fast plants and animals change, and children versus adults.
I agree with you. I agree with you because children are in a state of receptivity. I would call, especially until the age of 7. They're just recording. They're in a recording mode,
Because of
and
their brainwave being more in theta, which is
exactly.
a particular state of awareness or lack thereof awareness, really.
And therefore, when you teach something profound to children, when you expose them to something which is deeply natural, they're going to respond immediately. But I have to tell you, we proved even with adults that I'm going to just maybe we can jump in the first study that we
Yeah.
did on humans because since this maybe I can explain a bit more. We realized that water is a broadband absorber, receiver, and transmitter of energy, frequency, and vibration. It's an electromagnetic phenomenon, so to speak, especially when you bring it in coherent state. Then it really changes. So anyhow, when we realized that this water is our water and lemon water is an electromagnetic phenomenon, we were thinking, what's the most electromagnetic part of human biology that we can measure very accurately? It is our brain waves. No. Brain waves. It's very easy to measure
It's
brain
easy.
waves. Much easier. You have QEEG equipment. You just put it on and you can measure very accurately. That's why we went this way. I agree with you 100%. Heart coherence is much more powerful, but this is measurable in a much more easier way.
And his
So,
last name is Brainovic, so he had to go to the brain.
yeah. So what we did, we actually did a double-blind study. It's a golden standard study because we actually brought two genetically identical individuals.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so we put QEG equipment on their heads, and the doctor administering the water didn't know which one was which, and twins didn't know which one was which. One just took a couple of sips of regular water, and the other one took a couple of sips of lemon water. I mean, we monitored what's happening with their brainwaves. So the twin that took regular water, we saw zero change. So there was no change in brainwave patterns whatsoever. Everything stayed the same, which you would kind of expect. But almost as soon as the twin that took a couple of sips of NLM water, there was an almost instant better connection between the left and the right hemisphere of the brain, an almost instant harmonizing effect on the brainwaves. There is this delta coherence thing happening, which usually happens when people either meditate or they go on psychedelics, which is really interesting. So this was first very powerful, irrefutable evidence that something biologically remarkable happens when people drink this water. 3 weeks later, we repeated the experiment, again double blind, and we gave an lemon water to the other twin. And we saw exactly the same thing happening with the other twin, exactly the same, while the first twin now experienced nothing. So this was really powerful evidence that something really interesting happens just when you take a couple of sips of NLM water. It changes you. It brings your entire electromagnetic structure into more coherent state just after a couple of sips. So I just wanted to say that it's not like that adults need a long time. I would just say that the change that animals and plants and children experience are much more palpable, I would say, and from the get-go long term.
Well, and I would also say the adults are up against more for longer, and they have their own belief system that they're up
Yeah.
against as well, obviously. But I love this experiment, and I'm so curious as to take it to the next level, of course, to be quantum entangled to the other twin. At what point do they also start to have their brainwave change because their twins' brainwave change and they're quantumly entangled? I'm so curious about that.
Yeah, we didn't actually go there, but I love where you're going with it. It would be
Yeah,
totally cool to kind of make that correlation. How
right. Because
fast actually that happened. Yeah.
right, how fast? Because we know it will happen. Because that's the
Yeah, yeah,
point of
yeah.
Analytical One is, and what I love about it, and what I know about frequency is that when you have two frequencies up against each other, which is all of life, as you said, life is chaos, and our job, if you will, as a human is to create harmony out of chaos. And when two frequencies come together, there's only three options. One influences the other one gets influenced, or it gets one is avoiding the whatever it's that frequency is. So and frequency always goes to the highest frequency, correct? So if you have just a little bit of water that's analemon, like the water you're sipping, it's actually going to influence all the water in your body, not just that little bit of water. Which, could you speak upon that and how profoundly amazing that is?
I would definitely agree. I mean, when we realized that water, in our research, we clearly realized, this was actually back 15 years ago, 14 years ago, that water always picks up the most dominant frequency of its environment, whatever it is. So it's so important how we treat water, because it's going to pick up and it's going to store that particular information.
Because it's the vessel.
Yeah, it's the vessel. It picks up the most dominant frequency of its environment. When we realized that, our whole quest was to create the most dominant positive frequency water there is. Why? Because we knew any other body of water we expose to it, all the water is going to become exactly like it, since water always picks up the most dominant frequency of its environment. And that's why we created what we now call the mother water, which we put in this crystal wand. So this crystal wand has two purposes. First, of course, to create the barrier between the mother water inside and the rest of the water through which you swirl. But more importantly, it serves as a superconductor. It allows the frequency of mother water to pass through without any loss. So in an effect, when you take the NLM wand and you swirl through the water, what happens is that any H2O molecule that comes into close proximity to the mother water starts to mimic its exact structure. So in an effect, after 30 seconds of swirling, you get a glass of mother water. And just like you mentioned, since water always picks up the most dominant frequency of its environment, and 99% of our molecules of water, when you drink that water, you immediately experience the change. That's why we saw such a fast change in the brain waves, because it's the fastest thing that perceives the change and adapts to it.
And you don't actually have to stir it. You can just hold it.
You can hold it, of course, but when you swirl it, you just let's say you expedite the process. It's not going to last as long. For me, I just leave it in, but I have a bit of a different system.
Right. So, and just to explain further, the mother water, if you could, like I'm reading a book right now called The Mother Tree. So it's, there's so many mothers, like Mother Bali, Mama Bali, the earth. Talk to us about mother water, if you would.
So it takes us 1 full year to create the mother water. It takes 5-stage process. So after the water passes this 5th stage, water never goes back to chaos. And I will have to say that this is the main difference between, there are a couple of other technologies on the planet that manage to bring water in coherent state, and we tested most of them, and they do actually change the state of water. But the water stays in coherent state anywhere between a couple of minutes and day and a half. The best one stays day and a half. Then the water molecules break and the water goes back to chaos. And we now tested for 6 consecutive years, almost 7 consecutive years now. After just 1 treatment, water never went back to chaos.
Wow.
So this is the difference, the resilience, the stability of the water that happens. Those bonds that happen, they don't break. And therefore, we have this extraordinary effects. And we can talk about we did really a lot of studies on how this affects our biology. I mean, with plants, we actually did very recently a study on resilience to any form of stress. Plants thrive even under severe stress, which is going to be really important with the climate change and everything in how we're growing food.
Oh, this is very fascinating. Yeah, because there's so many applications to this tiny little handheld device, but you also have other filtration as well, correct? Like
yes. But I have to say one thing. People usually think, when they think water, they go to filtration. And don't get me wrong, filtration is important. But what people don't understand is what we just talked about. Even if you take the chemical out, since water always picks up the most dominant frequency of its environment. That information, even though you took the chemical out, that frequency is going to stay there. So when you drink that water, even if you took out the chemical, you are still introducing that particular frequency into your system. With analemma, you have a clean slate, and not only a clean state, you're priming water to be in that particular state, which works beautifully with your entire biology.
So consider that that filtered water that you have, that you then laid on your counter, and then you had an argument in your house, that water's picking that up, or that water that's purified in a bottle that's in a shelf in a grocery store that's getting fluorescent lights, and all the people that packed it, and all the stuff that's happened in and around that, that the water is absorbing that information, because all of life is information. And that's what Mario is speaking to here. And the brilliance of understanding the structures of water. So we know the three phases of water. Most of us come through biology and we go, okay, that's water, it's ice, and it's a vapor. We know that. Okay. What can you tell us about the fourth phase of water from your perspective, and maybe what this other phase of water is that you're discussing this?
Yeah, so I would say that there are more than four, but let's call it that way, because water is.
I think there's about 19 that I can count so far.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you mentioned fourth state. Our dear friend Dr. Jared Pollack, he actually brought it. Easy water, exclusion zone water. He came to his form of structured water in his own way. So he realized that water can exist in a jello-like state, which is also something interesting. When you swirl the wand through the water, analemma wand, you can see that the viscosity of the water changes. A lot of people perceive that. You can actually notice, but we barely scratch the surface of what water is. So water can exist in so many extraordinary ways. I love, you mentioned Veda. Veda really kind of, Veda Austin, she's really an extraordinary, I would say, water scientist and explorer. And she really, really brought light to really kind of enlightened people about what water is, and to the fact that water is an intelligent being because it responds intelligently to outside stimuli. That is the definition of intelligence. So whatever you expose water to, it reacts and it responds. Therefore, it's intelligent. So, there are worlds hidden in water. So I'm just super thrilled and happy and grateful to be part of this project, just to bring this, because most of the world is really not aware of the magic that exists there.
Well, it's what you said in the very beginning. Can you be aware of your left shoulder, the fabric hitting
Exactly.
your left shoulder, until you become aware of something? The depth of levels of awareness is the biggest rabbit hole. Like, I thought I started this journey 27 years ago and started to understand what I didn't know. And it just gets deeper every single minute of every single year. And water continues to be this magnanimous thing that is literally part of every living creature, and we know so little in so many ways about it. Like, what's even living in our ocean, as we know, or what's going to show up out of our ocean, who knows, in the next 2 years. How water is, the tides. Like, I had a house in southern on the East Coast, but like southeast of the United States, and there was 2 tides a day in this particular area, and you could not ever say that you couldn't see life changing because of the 2 tides. It was just so obvious how much life changed, how much people changed based upon where the tide was it a high tide or low tide. And to say that we're not affected by our environment, or to say that our water isn't the vessel holding this environment, and that is the vessel that the earth is in, that we've not given enough honor. I mean, being in the Western culture, we turn on sinks and we turn on showers and we get running water, and it's hot, and we take so much of it for granted. I mean, I was in Bali, and the first Airbnb we went to, there was no hot water in the shower. And it was like, okay, I cold plunge, but when I wanna, not when I'm just forced to. So, it was a whole different experience. And now when I wash my hands in the middle of the day after that experience, in all honesty, it's a very different experience for me just to wash my hands, because it becomes this spiritual experience every time I'm exposed to water. When I flush the toilet, to be grateful to the toilet for taking away my waste. And we've gotten so caught up in assuming that it's going to be there for us and not honoring truly the nature of it and the nature of us being the vessel as well of water and holding information.
You just reminded me of something that I really wanted to share.
Yes,
It's one extraordinary study. You mentioned something that's going to be very interesting for you. So early on, we actually picked up a whole lab from famous German scientist Dr. Fritz Albert Popp, and he actually invented this technology that can capture biophotons. So
yeah,
every living thing exudes biophotons, these tiny particles of light. The more biophotons biological system exudes, let's say that it has more vitality. But anyhow, why I'm saying this, early on we actually did an experiment with seeds. So this tiny piece of life, which is like very, very, very simple. So we watered a couple of seeds with regular water and a couple of seeds with NLM water, and we monitored biophoton emissions. So the seeds that were watered with regular water, we didn't see nothing special, really. But the seeds that were watered with NLM water, what we started seeing these peaks and valleys of biophoton emission. It was like this tiny piece of life started to breathe in and breathe out light, but in a very long form. It was like, what's happening? We connected to other scientists because we wanted to figure out what was happening there. And after a while, we figured out that it started to follow the tides. So NLM water connected this tiny piece of life with circadian rhythm of nature. So that tiny piece of life got connected and started to move electromagnetically with its larger environment. And the seeds that were watered with regular water experienced nothing. There was no change.
that's so fascinating. You're right. That really captures my interest, because we know that we say you have to, in order to have life, you have to have water. But is it the case that all of water is life?
No.
No. You need energy flow to have life that's held in water, and that energy flow is coherence. And chaos is dissonance, which is still energy, but it
But it's
does.
not exactly. So that's why I'm saying we believed that water existed in this coherent natural state back in the day. But because of environmental toxins, EMFs, everything, all of this kind of went out of whack. And that's why we believe that Mother Earth is the hidden voice of this project. It was necessary to bring water back into its natural, potent, powerful state so that people would actually get the benefit that they intended to receive all along. But that got broken. That connection got broken. That flow, that vibration got connected. We actually became disconnected not only within ourselves, but with our whole environment. We don't understand that we are a part of the earth, that
Yeah.
earth is one being, and every single individual, every single tree, every single stream, everything is an extension of us. We think that we're separate. We're not. We're part of the one being, so to speak. And why all of this becomes extraordinarily relevant now, because planet Earth is changing rapidly from day to day, week to week, month to month, and year to year. In the next 10 years, world is going to be very, very, very different. People that have some sense of it or intuition, they are very much aware that Earth is changing. And now the question is, are you going to move with the change and move with the Earth? Or are you going to stay separate? Are you going to stay disconnected? I believe that the key thing now is to actually be connected. This connection to everything that's relevant within ourselves and without, which is all one anyhow, is so incredibly important. And we're going to jump in all of extraordinary health benefits of this water. And we proved it through double-blind placebo-controlled studies. We did all of it. And we're not stopping. But I would say that this connection is the most important benefit of this water. It connects you to what's relevant electromagnetically. So you're moving with the change, you're not left behind, so to speak, or you're not disconnected to what's relevant. You're actually just like a wave. You're moving with it. So we're doing all of the studies because we want to prove to people in irrefutable way, if you drink this water, you are going to have incredible health benefits and your life is going to change. But the key element is this, what I just mentioned. And I love that I can speak, given you as you are and your tribe, they understand all of the nuances. So I can actually speak about this and why this water is so important.
Well, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that in this part too. But as we are tying up this part one, first of all, just bless you for the work that you're doing and continue to do in this world. And I completely agree with you that the time is now, that we are waking up finally to this earth that we are sharing, that we are connected to, and that connection is the key. That when I personally feel like COVID was the best thing that ever happened, because it really woke people up to how absurd it was to disconnect, how absurd it was to cover your mouth so that you can't breathe fresh air when you're dealing with a respiratory illness. Like some of the absurdities that have occurred that have woken up the general population, or at least gotten them to start to question, for those of us who have been on this path for many years, and wanting more people to, inviting more people to the path, that there's lots more people on the path now than ever before, which is very exciting for people like Mario and I, because this is really fun. We're having a lot of fun living heaven on earth. It's really a lot of fun. And we've only just begun the magic. But to really speak to the structuring of water and the electromagnetic field that creates, and how that electromagnetic field is connected to the other electromagnetic fields, and what the power of that is for our health. I do heart rate variability, right? And so looking at heart rate variability in Emoto's work, and what he found was that electromagnetic field from your heart is the biggest magnetic field. We know this from Roland McCrady's work as well, from Heart Math, that the heart has 40,000 sensory more neurites in it than the brain, and that this magnetic field that we're created is so dependent upon the quality of the water, that it's not about filtration, that it's about the quality of the water and the quality of the structure of that water. So if you can just speak to that for a few minutes, and then we'll go a little bit deeper into the research and to how to apply this and how to live so simply with such a crazy great tool that's very fragile, but easy to travel.
Very fragile, yeah. Well, so what should I talk about?
Yeah, I know that was a lot. So the concept of the magnetic field, and the human body being a magnetic field, and the earth being a magnetic field,
So
and how the water has something to do with that.
I love, how Nikola Tesla said, if you want to know the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And water is a broadband absorber, receiver, and transmitter of energy, frequency, and vibration, and therefore it's at the very heart of things. It is the secret of the universe. It is the medium that holds the secret of the universe. Consciousness marries the form through water. As I mentioned, it's the
This
most
marries the form through the water. That's beautiful.
it's the most fundamental level of our existence. That's why I mentioned when you change that, entire biology follows. Everything revertebrates through that. So it holds the information. Water not only holds the information, but it carries the vibration. So when we talk about electromagnetic fields, you cannot talk about it without water. Because on the planet Earth, we are columns of water. 99% of the molecules, we are basically very clever H2O when you look at it. People always look on the physical side of things, but we only have 1% heavy molecules. 99% of our molecules are very light water molecules. We're water. Water carries consciousness. So therefore, it's at the very heart of everything. It's electromagnetic in nature. So you cannot talk about one without talking about the other. That's where the connection is. And therefore, it's so important that water exists in this liquid crystalline state. Because I would say that NLM water upgrades our operating system. And what happens when you upgrade your operating system? All of your software on your computer can work much better. But more than that, now with the new operating system, you can actually install the new software that you couldn't install on your older operating system. So therefore, you're being opened to receive something that you weren't able to receive just a second ago. That's why it's so important. And we prove this. We just remember this tiny piece of life. Can you imagine what happens with human body, with our intelligence? You have this tiny piece of life, and in one moment, you just sprinkle it with NLM water, and it gets connected, and it starts to breathe light and start to move with its larger electromagnetic environment. To be honest, when you witness all this, and we're going to go into all of the studies, purely what are the actual kind of health benefits, but when you witness all of this, I just kind of want to do it justice.
Yeah.
I just kind of want to tell this story to everybody so that everyone can get the benefit.
Well, before
Now
we go
is a
into
good
that,
moment to, yeah, okay.
How did you get
Okay.
here? How did you get here? What's your background?
Okay, so I actually I was very passionate about health and wellness for many years, and this led me to I opened a natural pharmaceutical company. So I worked with natural medicines that don't have side effects, that only have powerful positive effects on people, and I loved doing that. I helped thousands and thousands of people doing this, and it was hugely gratifying. I loved every minute of it. And I did this for more than 10 years. Then I
Like
sold the whole.
homeopathics or herbology?
No. It's
Both the
actually
molecular.
both
Suitable.
medicines, but biological medicines and
Biological nutraceuticals.
yeah.
Okay.
And I actually sold the whole business to Walgreens
Oh, okay.
after, and then after that, I was kind of like, I want to do something that is going to kind of be awesome for the planet, be awesome for humans, animals, plants, environment. It was a tall order, but I didn't have to work anymore.
Yeah.
And then I meditated on it, and as universe would orchestrate everything, I was actually introduced to Dr. Clarker and Dolf Zantinger, and two Dutch scientists that actually started this whole beautiful story. And since I have the background in human clinical trials and everything, then we just proved this extraordinary magic in so many ways, what actually happens when people drink this water.
Beautiful. Well, let's take a break because it looks like you need a break. So let's take a break and then we'll dive into part two where we go into the research and how to apply this and what this shows for the human health and the longevity and the resilience that makes it really easy and simple. Well, that we know it is. Life is easy and simple and joyful, right? That's what we're here to relax and recognize. So
Yes.
thank you so much, Mario. And let's tell them how they can find you. We have a code for Analemma as well. I'm so curious about the name. That's a whole nother story because Kelly's a wordsmith. So I'm so curious about the name and who came up with it and who was sitting in that board meeting. But tell them how they can find Analemma.
Analemma, yeah, but we have it very simple. You just go to coherent-water.com. It's very simple. So we're going to explain the Analemma name, and it's really a remarkable story behind that. So just go to coherent-water.com, and I invite people to, if you want to follow our science, we're doing a lot of science. Just jump on a newsletter and you can follow our work. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, if you want to follow what we're doing.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us. And if you are a part two person, because you are part of the Flow Forum, join us as we go a little deeper with Mario on the Analemma and structuring of water and coherent water and what that all means for the human physiology, biology, and resilience as we play this game called life and we want to win. So here we go. Well, champions of the Vibe Flow community, energy flowing through that body, thank you for sharing this time with us and getting through the entire episode today. I know time is what we're spending here as our currency on this planet as people, and it really does mean a lot that as we devote our time and energy into creating this content, that you stuck with us throughout it. So if you would like more on this particular subject from this expert and get that free gift, make sure to register for our Energy Flow Forum. And you too, with a very nominal price, can access all sorts of upgraded content and deeper dives into the very subjects that you love: energy, fascia, lymphatics, oxygen, and water. As you know, as always on this show and any content that we create, it is for your own health purposes. This is not intended to be advice or medical diagnoses or professional advice. It's purely information that if it resonates with you and you apply it and you upgrade, we love to hear about it. What a great coincidence, and we're happy to be on that journey with you. If this doesn't resonate with you, and you know somebody it will, pass it along. And in the meantime, know that we truly are here to show you and explain to you and be with you through this lovely journey of life, and to share our experiences together and help each other upgrade, because that's how we're going to do this together, collaborate.